My daughter turned around, looked at the activity table, and started screaming.
Open your eyes. Hell is empty. All the devil's here.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Queen of Horror. Today I wanted to come on and talk to you guys about what's been happening inside my house recently. I recently did a video on my childhood ghost stories. I think this is sort of related to that, so if you want to go check that out, I will leave a card up here. But anyway, let's get into this. My kids have been experiencing sort of what I used to experience, and I did want to ask you guys, if any of you guys know anything about this stuff, please let me know what could be happening in the comments, because as I said in my previous video, it all feels like everything that happens is sort of to try and scare you. It's like they feed off your fear, or they want you to be scared of them. So, I mean, I get a spiritual gift being passed down to a child, but something so terrifying, I really don't know what could be happening unless it just never left me at all, and it's always been there, and now it's just like attached to my kids because I can't see it anymore. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna get onto this one side of this whole story. There's a lot to catch you guys up on. We had a little activity table, and this is what I've sort of pinpointed this one apparition to be stuck to. I have the biggest feeling. It's weird, okay? We got this when my son was a kid. I have no idea where it came from, or who gave it to us. I really don't remember. But anyway, we got the activity table, and at first it went off during the night occasionally. We thought it was just a electrical mishap, whatever. And then my son started seeing things, and he would wake up screaming and point to his roof. It was always his roof he'd point to. At this point he couldn't really put words together. He learned how to speak very late, so yeah, he couldn't really tell us what was happening. There was a cupboard inside of our kitchen where he would go and he would look into it and he would yell at it. He would yell at whatever was inside of it. And I have no idea what he was seeing, but it seemed to be this one cabinet inside of our kitchen he would always go to and scream at, like he was having an argument with something. Then we moved into our new house, and he started to get scared of something outside of his window. He kept saying there was something, like a monster or something outside of his window. So my mother-in-law came over, she saged the house, and I'm not entirely sure what happened with his activity table because at the time I wasn't really worried about it, I wasn't thinking of it. So I'm not sure if it got moved into my daughter's room or whatever, but my daughter then woke up screaming. And this is the part that is really, really creepy. My daughter woke up and she started saying Daru, and at this point she couldn't even speak, so she was learning how to speak too. So my daughter would have been about, I don't know, 16 months, 17 months, 18 months, I'm not sure, like around that age. And yeah, so she was saying Daru when she woke up in the middle of the night. We had no idea what she was saying. Then the next day, she starts chasing around my son, like playing a game with her hands in the air like this, going Daru. Like she just kept repeating it, Daru, Daru, and was chasing around the house with her hands in the air like that. It was really weird. We were like, what is going on? And then within a week, Daru slowly started turning into scary. So whatever she saw that night, she associated scary with her hands being held in the air. I thought that was really, really creepy. There was one night, after a while, my daughter and my son moved into the same room together, and I'm guessing the activity table moved with them. I'm not entirely sure, because obviously I wasn't keeping track of it back then, but they were both sleeping in the same room, and my daughter woke up. So I went, put her back to sleep. 5 minutes after I walked out of the room, which I'm sure she would not have been asleep by then, so I'm sure this was not a nightmare, she started screaming, and it was like a terrified scream. And so I ran in, and I was immediately thinking that there was a bug inside the room. So I was looking around the room for a bug, and there was nothing. And I was trying to get out of her what was wrong. She was too upset to get any words out. And then my son gets up. So he's my oldest, and he was trying to comfort her. He says to her, "Don't worry, Summer. George is gone now. George won't hurt you." And this was so terrifying to me because they don't watch any shows with a George in it. They don't watch Curious George or anything like that. They don't know a George. It was just out of the blue. It was really, really weird. But then not long after that, we were watching a show on TV. It was like with animals, and it was making the sounds of animals. One of those was a cow. And well, the cow mooed, and this activity table has a cow that moos also. My daughter turned around, looked at the activity table, and started screaming. I have never heard her scream in so much fear. She ran to me, bawling her eyes out, and tried to literally climb me like a tree. And she was absolutely distraught at just a cow mooing, and she was looking at the table while she was freaking out. So she thought the table had gone off, and I had to calm her down by telling her it was just the TV. So that was the first part where I was like, okay, something's wrong here. I took the table away. It got buried under a whole bunch of toys and stuff in the lounge room. They didn't play with it for a long time. Well, I was cleaning out the lounge room not too long ago, about a few months ago, and I found the activity table. Well, I thought maybe it would be a good toy for my son, my youngest. And at that point, I really thought that everything was a big coincidence. My daughter was the one that freaked out about the table. I didn't really know it was anything to do with my son. And that's why I just thought, okay, it was just a freak out. She was scared because it went off during the night. I gave it to my youngest. He played with it. He was happy with it. And I was like, there can't be any harm in it, right? Well, I left it in his room that night. And that night was the first night he woke up with a nightmare. And my partner was like, what is wrong with him? Because he was like shaking. His scream was like shaky. It wasn't like, I want a bottle or something like that. It was literally shaking, like he was terrified. I immediately knew it was this table, so I took it out. And as a little experiment, I put it into our room to see if anything would happen to us. Well, nothing did. Everything seemed to have stopped. The kids weren't talking about it anymore. One night, which wasn't that long ago, it was about 2 months ago now, I cannot get it out of my head that this was because of the activity table. I just felt the biggest connection to it. It was terrifying for me. This is the first thing that I've seen since I was a child. I was asleep in bed and my oldest son came in. He comes in a lot for drinks of water and to be tucked in and stuff like that, so it wasn't anything new. He came in and he started talking to me, and at first I couldn't make out what he was saying, and his voice didn't sound like him. It's hard to explain, and I woke up thinking I'm still dreaming. Obviously it's my son. I've looked over and it didn't even look like him. It was a completely different child. The person that I saw there was a little boy who was insanely skinny. Like, his neck was like a twig. Like, he was very, very skinny. And he had, like, no hair. It was just little strands of hair. And my son has a big, like, lock of hair on top of his head. So the first thing I thought was, I'm dreaming. Like, obviously this is my son in front of me. And I've reached out to touch his hair, because I thought that would be the first wake-up call. I'd reach out, touch his full set of hair, and I'd know that it was my son. Well, that didn't happen. I reached out, and I did not feel hair. All I felt was scalp. And I cannot tell you how real it felt. Like, I felt little strands of hair on his head. I even felt the oils from his scalp. I cannot tell you how real it felt. And so I ripped my hand back, and as I've done that, my son appeared. I saw my son again, and I've reached out again, and I felt my son's hair, which was definitely not there beforehand. So my first thoughts were, I was really tired, okay? I try to rationalize really everything now as a parent. I can't really freak out about silly things anymore. I need to be the one to comfort the children. So I tried to rationalize it, got up, put my son back to bed, got him a drink. Really, I rationalized it so well that I wasn't really afraid anymore. It was just, I was sleepy. So I went back to bed, everything was fine. The next morning is what terrified me. My daughter woke up and she said to me, "Mum, I had a bad dream last night." And I said, what was your bad dream? And she says, it looked like Casey, but it wasn't Casey. First off, that was a bit weird to me, and I was like, oh, what did he do? And she said that he grabbed her. So I was like, was he a bigger boy or was he skinny? She says skinny. Did he have long hair or was it short hair? She said short hair. So she described exactly what I had seen that very night, and maybe that was a coincidence, but it was a coincidence that terrified me. And I got that activity board out of my house as quick as I could because I was absolutely petrified to see this thing again. And I couldn't sleep for nights after that. I literally stayed awake till my eyes couldn't stay open anymore. Now, I did see another thing during that process. It was a bit weird to me, but it wasn't anything huge. I went to the toilet one night, and so when you walk out my bedroom door, you got to turn down the hallway to go to the toilet, and the other way is the lounge room. And so I went to the toilet. I walked out. I didn't have my glasses on because it was in the middle of the night, and I can't really see properly with my glasses. It's pretty blurry. So I went to the toilet, I sat down. As I was sitting there, I was staring at the floor in front of me, but I was still able to, at the top of my eyes, I could see the lounge room as well. And from the top of my eye, I saw, something, get off the ground and arch its back to stand up. It was, it's really hard to explain. It was it stood up, but its bones weren't stiff. It was floppy, I guess. It was really, really weird, but it was I know that I saw something move inside the lounge, and when I looked at it, there was nothing there. So that was really weird for me. And now this is something that happened recently. Okay, so I have to include this because I'm not sure if I was just dreaming or if I was seeing the exact same thing my son saw. But my son woke up, and I went to put him to sleep, and then I got back into bed, and as I was getting back into bed, a human-sized head seemed to come around the corner, and it was sort of in the corner of your eye sort of thing. I saw someone enter the room, and as I've turned to look, there was nobody there, and I can tell you how much I believe someone was coming into the room. My heart stopped because my partner was right beside me in bed. There's no other adult-sized person that was supposed to be coming into our room, so my heart stopped. And when I looked at it, it wasn't there anymore. So obviously, it was just in the corner of my eye. I see things like that all the time. So I thought, whatever, and I went to sleep. Well, later that night, my youngest woke up. He does usually every night. And so I was in the room trying to put him to bed again. And then my oldest woke up. So I told my oldest to go back to bed. I'd be with him in a second because I'm putting his little brother to bed. And then shortly after that, I heard him calling for me. And I was really frustrated because it's really hard to get my littlest to sleep. So I was really frustrated that he was calling for me when I told him I'd be a minute. And so I've gone in there and I'm like, what do you want? Why would you be calling for me? I just told you to go to bed. And he's like, was that you? And I was like, what do you mean? I was in the room with Rayleigh. He said, someone was at my door and it looked like Mummy. And it really creeped me out to think that he saw a woman at his door. And what really creeped me out even more is that he tried to rationalize it for himself. He said, okay, it must have been Daddy. And I went along with that. And I was like, yeah, it would have been just Daddy. I didn't think at the time he would have gotten up because otherwise he would have got my son a drink. My partner just doesn't get up and then go back to bed. He would have tried to help me. And my partner told me that he didn't get up either. So whatever my son saw, it wasn't me, it wasn't him. And it really creeped me out because of also the thing that I saw earlier. And when I left him again and tried to put my youngest to bed again, I felt like I kept seeing that shadow head walk around corners. I went out of the room to try and see if my son would go to sleep on his own, and I saw something move in the mirror, and it looked adult-sized, and so I turned around to see what was there, and there was nothing there. And then, as I was standing at the front of my son's door, I saw something move through our archway into our lounge room, but then when I looked up, it wasn't there. It was pretty weird. This was recently too. The other night my son told my partner that there was something on his roof that said, "Are you sleeping?" Last night my daughter called my partner into the room and said that something grabbed her blankets. The other night she told me that something talked to her underneath her blankets. So these things are starting to happen again, and a lot more frequently. What scares me is that they're the same age that I was when all this started, so I'm really worried everything is going to happen to them. And the way they talk about all these things and the way they scream, it's exactly like what happened to me as a kid, and it's just... Please let me know if any of you know what this could possibly be or why this would be happening. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I wanted to catch you guys up on this so I can update you if anything else happens, because things seem to be happening really frequently now. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I will leave a subscribe button right here and a new video right here. This is Queen of Horror.